about where we're at. And I said, simple stuff I would get printed over.
And so I didn't see your news. Yeah. So the facility.
They're moving it? Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay. Raise volume.
The thing about another cool thing, I don't know if they've changed it, but they've been charging more than if you were to go on meds or micro.
Yeah, we got somebody.
And it quits supporting senior citizens to support them on that. Then we were told that they were starting to charge more than was in the highest rate. And it's supposed to be free.
Well, it was.
I used it.
When it was Woodlawn.
Yeah, but I used to do this.
Yes. All right, so we're going to call meeting to order at 5:30.
Oh, okay.
First order of business is roll call.
All right, I'm Jenny Wilson, Senior Parks Planner.
Hi, Jen Burbidge, Director of Parks, Culture and Recreation for the city.
Haley Ortega, North Thurston
Public Schools.
community member.
Ruth Weigel, I think I'm a community member. I'm not with the schools. So. Am I? LTAC, okay.
Daphne Russell, part of the planning commission.
Wendy Goodwin, Commissioner for Parks, Culture and Recreation Chair.
Sherry Wilkins, voting member.
Sharon Ideker, pickleball player.
Kathy Cook, voting member.
Brooklyn McReynolds, I'm a youth, if that counts.
I'm Jim Wagner, no longer youth.
I'm Rachel Murata, Vice Chair. Anyone online? Mark, do you want to go next?
Good evening, everyone. Mark Brown dialing in from Utah again, but I'll be in person at our next meeting.
John?
John Hagwood, non-voting member.
All right. There's none.
And then just to note, we've got a couple of staff at the table over here. Carter Gibson, Executive Assistant, Troy Wu, Finance Director, Chelsea Yarwood, Finance Accounts Manager. Accounting Manager.
And next order of business is the land acknowledgement. Would anyone like to volunteer to read it? I don't think you want me to. Go ahead.
The Parks Improvement Funding Workgroup meets on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thanks. Next order of business is approval of the agenda for the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve our agenda for tonight. Anyone would like to move?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Not a
second.
Was that Karen?
Anyone opposed? All right, agenda is approved. Next up would be approval of our meeting minutes from October 14th. If anyone wants to do that.
Apologize, I just was able to switch over.
No worries. We're waiting for motion to approve our meeting minutes from October 14th.
I'll make the motion of the approval of the October 14th, 2024 meeting minutes. Sherry Wilkins.
Seconded.
All right. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, our minutes are approved. Next order of business would be public comment. It looks like no one is signed up. Okay. We're on to business items. So the first business item is a work group recap from Jennifer, the charter.
All right, well, Jenny's pulling that up. Just want to thank you all again very much. Every time we want to say thank you for being on this work group. And we know that there's a lot of information to learn and process, and so we are doing this recap at the beginning of each meeting. It is repetitive on purpose. It just makes sure that we're, you know, on the same page moving forward and just tying up any loose ends as we go along. All right, so we've talked a lot about the challenges as they are identified in the comprehensive plan. So challenges are maintaining current services. We've got a lot of deferred maintenance. We've got an aging infrastructure combined with a growing population and, you know, challenges in meeting the community's needs and knowing that Lacey needs sustainable, dedicated park funding. We've talked through the expenses of bringing a Parks Culture Recreation system to the public of the size of Lacey's. And so that does cost, you know, just over $10 million annually. And we do have existing challenges keeping up with existing services levels at this rate. The PCIP is between the new capital projects and the replacement projects comes in at just over $80 million. We know that's not even inclusive of everything that there is that's kind of on the horizon around the corner. And so this is, so that's obviously a deficit. We know that it is typical for Parks, Culture, Recreation departments to be heavily subsidized, but just knowing that, really wanting to maintain services and bring the community, you know, the needs that they have. That's what we're trying to do here with looking at the challenges and looking at the expenses. Solutions. We know that Lacey Parks engaged in an extensive public outreach and engagement process to inform the update for the comprehensive plan. And one of the results of that plan was identifying the PCIP, or the Parks Capital Improvement Program. And that is the department's roadmap for capital projects. It takes into account the staff input, the public's input, and a lot of different stakeholders, and kind of identifies the needs all in one document. And as we've talked about before, for this work group specifically, you'll be helping to identify sustainable funding for future parks improvements to balance that aging infrastructure and growing population with the community needs. So the work group shall review parks expansion and replacement projects as identified in that 6-year PCIP, analyze all available funding options, and recommend to the Lacey City Council a funding package identifying funding sources, including recommended amounts, to implement a prioritized list of parks capital projects by December of 2024. I do want to do a quick review of the parks funding options, and we are going to focus more on the funding at the next meeting. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the projects more, but we do definitely want to keep these funding options, you know, fresh on your mind. Again, doing a recap of what we had already talked about. So we talked about program vendor and rental fees currently bringing in right around $1.6 million annually. That we bring in just over $66,000, well, closer to $67,000 annually in sponsorships. That grants and donations, although very appreciated and help, you know, with our bottom line, they're highly variable and one-time in nature. We talked about in terms of the general fund, a $2.6 million deficit for 2025. And our finance director and city manager have, you know, presented that to council and have identified reserves to provide a balanced budget to the council for consideration. And that budget does culminate to final approval of coming in like the 3rd week of December. Lodging tax, the projected revenues for 2025 is, you know, just over $566,000. We know that there is a very long competitive list of projects that do apply projects and facilities that apply for these lodging tax dollars. We talked through that there could be potential to repurpose the $4 million that's designated in reserves currently for various projects. We also talked about excess property tax or GO bonds that could potentially generate $15 million for capital and cannot be used for maintenance and operations. We did talk through a public facilities district, which is a voter approved property tax, and we have talked about how that is for a specific project. We talked about Metropolitan Parks District funding. For example, Tumwater and Olympia both have that. And we looked at 3 different scenarios, and the middle one is presented here on this slide, which is the 50 cents per 1,000 assessed property valuation, which would generate $6.6 million annually. We did also talk about how MPD dollars are very versatile between acquisition, development, and maintenance and operations. We touched on impact fees. We know that there would be a study needed to find out how much could get generated. We're actually, since we're going to be talking more about funding next time, we're going to bring some more information about that to our next meeting, and the same with the cultural access program. That's a sales tax, if you recall, and that's something that we're going to bring more information next meeting about. So we reviewed these in depth during our last meeting, obviously, these Parks Capital Improvement projects, and you'll get a chance today to spend a lot of time discussing them in small groups. That's actually going to take the bulk of our agenda tonight. But curious if anyone has follow-up questions, because it was such a lot of information that was presented about the new capital projects. And Jenny will touch on this, I'm sure, but as we go through our activity tonight, we're all here in the room, so if you have questions, you know, you can just tap us on the shoulder, raise your hand.
I guess I have one. I went to the Long Lake area because we didn't do that on our tour and I hadn't been there before. And I understand that there's water quality issues, you know, at the swim beach, right? There's signs all over. And so how are you gonna work through that in terms of, you know, both priorities and, you know, understanding if that's gonna be a viable area for swimming in the future and what type of development then is gonna be needed there?
Yeah, great question. So we, you know, there's from time to time, there is water quality issues, and we do work closely with the Thurston County Public Health to make sure and identify those. It's something that happens during certain times of the year, and there's a lot of different factors. Jenny's been in aquatics for 20 years and can probably speak better to it than myself. But just understanding that there's going to be issues like that we need to work through, no different than like the COVID pandemic. And we had, so I remember during COVID, it was everybody go outside, you know, so we were trying to adjust our programming, and then it was the smoke came in and it was like, everybody inside. And so it's, you know, part of our operation is adapting and being nimble enough and flexible enough to adapt to what gets thrown at us. And so, yeah, I think there definitely will be challenges like that. I don't believe that it changes the need to make those improvements to the swim area itself, just because we get 400 or 500 visitors a day to that location during the summer months. So it is a heavily visited park, and even if there's no swimming, there's picnicking and, you know, there's trails out there, there's volleyball, different types of activities. I don't know if you have anything to add about.
Yeah, I think I would just add that, you know, during the swim season, we test for like bacteria. Testing, and that's always very low. What the signs are referencing are just general warnings for algae blooms. And that's naturally occurring. It happens at all the lakes locally. What does contribute to it is fertilizer use that does make it grow more rapidly and happen more naturally. But, you know, blue-green algae does happen at all the lakes locally. So to consider, you know, to not develop a lake because or lake property it's happening everywhere. So, you know, still having access to swimming is really important.
So it's just
And I
a
know you know that.
situation where you close a beach and open a beach.
Right, and it's usually at the most a 2-week closure when there's a bloom, and then you open it back up just out of an abundance of caution, really. But great question.
Anything else that comes up for you regarding this list? We also have the replacement list on the next slide. So same question, just curious if you have anything that's come up for you that you wanted clarification about.
Well, we were just at the senior services auction and the Lacey Community Center came up and, you know, that's heavily used and it does need to grow for the seniors.
Great, so like I said, tonight we'll be spending most of our time in breakout groups with initial discussions about prioritization of the projects that are on those two lists that we just showed. But again, one last chance for questions before we kick it off here on what I just reviewed or anything from our last 3 meetings. Yes.
Mine's not a question, but rather a comment. I so appreciate the Lacey staff because there's not been one question that I haven't asked that I've got a response right away. Every one of you, I mean, see, he's smiling back there. He knows he did too. No, every one of you, I just appreciate that. It feels respectful and it does feel like you appreciate us. So thank you. Good job.
So we're.
Yeah, thank you. So, and
our staff.
it's
Everybody.
definitely a team effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carrie. We appreciate that. All right. I think with that.
We should have Rick in here and listen to that.
Share the video with them.
I will.
All right. That's all I had on that one. Thank you.
All right. Next item is the activity, initial parks capital improvement program priorities with Jenny Wilson, our senior parks planner.
Thank you. Okay, so our first, our evening activity is we're gonna break everybody into small groups. And we're gonna work together to have you rank the PCIP projects. So just wanna mention that this is not a binding decision. It's really just a way for the group to consider and discuss different viewpoints. So discussion topics in ranking these can include why these are your priority projects, previous community input. So we talked about the comprehensive plan, consideration for new versus replacement projects, and then overall project costs. So obviously you can discuss and come up with your ranking however you want, but those are just some topics to get you started. And so we have a whole ranking sheet that we'll pass out in just a second. One thing that I do want to mention is that the folks that are virtual, John and Mark, you will have your own ranking and Carter's going to email those to you. Oh, you already did. Thank you. And then we're going to ask everybody to report out from your groups report out what your top 3 projects are that you guys came up with. And so we'll ask Mark and John to do the same. We unfortunately can't have you guys as a group just because of open public meeting laws. So you'll have to report out your own. So we're gonna pass out a packet that has basically our PowerPoint from our previous that has all the project information. So you guys can as a group reference it. Of course, we'll be here as resources too if you have any questions. And then the ranking sheet is here and it has all the projects and then just a spot for you guys to rank it. And then we'll have you report it back to us.
And something I want to add is we know that there'll be questions about the funding component. And so feel free to ask those, tap us on the shoulder. We've got, finance staff here as well. But again, we're going to focus on the projects this time. And then we'll focus more on the funding next time. And then we will, of course, merge those 2 things together. So
is there any way to rank them according to maintenance type issues? versus new or updated?
They're all on the same list.
Yeah, so, okay.
Well, the list is organized by, the new ones are listed first and the maintenance and the replacements are, that's kind of how we've been presenting everything, just,
Yeah.
so they are organized that way, so you
Okay.
can. Yeah,
So in terms of criteria to use to rank, we're not being provided with criteria by Lacey staff. So the criteria we bring to it is our own
correct,
from whatever perspective that might be. Am I correct?
correct. And I think that's something that we would like you guys as groups to talk about, is to share some of the criteria that you have with each other, yes.
Do you think there'd be value in voting and non-voting, breaking out a little bit together versus?
Yeah, we were gonna have, I was just gonna have everybody count off and do, so I was gonna break things up a little bit, but, yeah, just because everybody seems to sit in the same spots, which is great, but. So,
You did.
yeah. Are there any other questions before we get started? Okay, we'll do 3 groups, so do you just want to start with, we'll do 1, 2, 3 and start.
2,
3.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2,
3.
1, 4, or 1. We know there's one group, sorry, there's one group of 4. Obviously.
Okay, so let's have 1s over here, 2s over here, and 3s over here, and I'll bring you guys pens in your packets.
nice to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're limited a little bit on how much we can. But. Yes.
Somehow it does not make me feel.
Switch meetings around. That's what.
Oh, no, but I understand.
You don't wanna look at everybody for your 3.
Oh, okay, we could. We all sit like a.
Choose one, then you're 2.
You're 2.
You're 2.
Yeah, Carrie, you were 2 because I was a 3.
Can it help you? Nice.
Hello, hello.
Are you guys feeling on each side or does somebody want to come over here? It's up to you. Okay. We'll move this
You
thing
wanna
over.
like, no,
You know what I have to say?
do you wanna maybe just scooch around the corner and then we can be 2 and 1?
No, it's up to you guys.
So we get 1 packet.
Right here. We'll see.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. Okay.
We all get our.
We all get around?
Oh my God, I'm good.
Yes, 1.
Thanks for coming, Jim.
You guys have a packet?
Oh, you want me to sit there?
I have to shout at you.
It's like,
okay,
I was trying to.
Okay.
Good. You did great.
Okay.
Well, we have a little slight flaw in our plan.
Oh.
You're probably public meetings, you have to be on camera.
Okay.
So this is like outside.
Outside of the meeting.
Yeah, don't listen to me. They have a fear.
It's funny. Can't be doing shades.
So, I don't know, just, I thought it might be good just to kind of like, what are we thinking? Assuming you guys have more thoughts over the last few meetings, but
project.
One thing that's really resonated with me is
And we just did 1, 2, 3, right?
what is
We only
currently
do 3,
exist
or do you
well,
bring everything?
and what do we think the
You
public
just do
will
1, 2,
really
3, or you want everything?
and everything.
Yeah.
We're gonna should focus on our money on those things versus the more obscure, less used, functional, thinking we need, if you're gonna go.
What's our group?
Big, the flashy stuff, that's my personal opinion, just my personal opinion. I think we need to go with the stuff that is really big difference in how people perceive Lacey versus.
And the reason I agree with you, and obviously we're getting money, then more people.
But it's, yeah, like it feels bad to like.
Having been able to touch more people. So I agree with that.
So like, just for example,
We have a bunch.
Brooks Park, it's a darling little niche little thing, but like, I can't imagine it ever would even get in my top 20 probably thing, so. Because it's just too small, too uninviting, I don't know, so that's just an example for.
Okay, wow, okay. Yeah, just wait.
This is the extra.
A lot of the.
Data driven. I wouldn't want to see.
I'm a little,
this is
like,
important.
putting new things on the team.
Yes, we
Operations.
recommend this is not supported by the
And then
data.
the other
So
one.
They are so exciting and to have a.
could be perceived
Kind of like we
as,
have 3, right?
that's some kind of small field room that got together later.
Calling it safety.
Yeah.
So preservation of what.
If the recommendations are based on what the public says, A, they do,
For our
Okay.
facilities.
and B, what they want to do.
The tennis park for those went to safety.
I don't want to.
No, that was
And
just.
also to let you know, I have a
But there's.
added sacrifice.
I wouldn't want people to do it.
Yeah.
And 5 with people.
And I kind of lived with mine in that.
40,000.
where I was, you know,
I think that was the one that also
Yeah,
had, they were filling in.
Agree with all that.
prioritizing
I'm
your
wondering, this is a daunting list.
So.
Have you guys heard of like multi-voting before? Have you ever heard of that? Because I'm kind of thinking like, you know,
Oh.
like, how do we like, okay, what's our number one race? I think, you know, maybe we pick like,
We have the.
well, once, this is probably bottom, this is probably top, this is bottom, this is top, and we just simply separate it that way. And then we could take our top and then go, okay, this would be, you know, and it just allows us, because otherwise I can't really relate Spring Park to Holman Park. I can't, it's just too.
I get what you're saying.
So. I'm
So,
thinking we- Yeah, so we can focus more on how to get it.
Well, I think that.
You know, it's funded
This Brooks
differently.
Park
Well, that's
development,
what-
that's a little one.
Yeah.
And,
And I do think it's.
and that's a neighborhood that could use.
Yeah.
Development.
The senior center funded.
This is a possibility.
What if
So,
so,
but
if
it's
it's already approved or whatever.
donation.
What if we ranked them
Like right here.
from 1 to 10 on just how much?
No, right here.
Yeah, but I saw it's in there, but the senior center didn't have another alternative funding source or anything.
No, there's a little bit of reserve for repairs, but
That's it.
nothing near
I just
an expansion.
misremembered. Okay, thank you.
And one of the things you said, Jen, that I agree with you, but I do think there's a piece of it, because on that survey, the number of people that responded aren't really representative of,
My first thought is C.
because there were what, only 400
Data.
or 600
When I
responded.
look around.
You
Up to
can
the star
get
there.
a statistically valid statewide sample of
Well, I just
participation with less
think
than
this
200.
Okay.
400 would be statistically.
It really has, there was.
Okay.
Unless it was,
Friday, it was their last night, Mark. Yeah.
gathered, not
I
random.
always think.
If it was
oh, look at
lack
it,
of a
they went
random
right
gathering,
by. Well, maybe
okay,
that's
okay.
amazing.
Which is why they're deciding who's gonna win
Yeah.
governor, and they haven't talked to all of us yet, so, stayed away from, so.
So having stated
group
my
them together.
biases, I would say.
You have to give up, there's 29 total, so you have to come, you have to separate, you have to give 29 different.
So should we go, do you wanna maybe, should we go through kind of each of these and then
Maybe don't, and then like do the.
No, not like the
Top or
rate,
bottom?
but
I think that's a good idea to do this,
putting,
I put it at 29.
putting your money where
this
you're.
little kind of thing, and we've got a picture of everything.
If you were giving it a
Yes.
number.
No, that's
start,
hard business.
so you like it, so you don't live that much, it's more of like a 3. and then
So,
you
Oh, this with the two trees. Okay.
dang, I love those trees,
This is
but
done.
I'm not sure this is.
So just like.
Part for the.
The start, you don't have to, but the little pocket.
Compared to some of the other parks. So this would be on my box.
And I agree.
So
Right.
to.
Hunter Park.
I wouldn't give it much.
I also.
It's a wonderful gathering place.
Some areas.
Oh, I know, that's where they have the concerts and I think a lot of people use it.
Really exciting.
But we
Such
don't.
a-
Specific events and activities.
Yes, yes,
Otherwise, during the week, typically
Yeah.
it's probably people have.
Meadow right now.
Right.
Nearby offices
I
and
think
that the,
weekends. I suspect it's
center
pretty empty,
is important.
but I would keep it near
That's
the.
very
dog.
important.
So do we want to go through?
That's what and I think it's important to know
Yeah,
that a lot of people go there. Planning commission, this is like.
Is there an, I made this up, but is there an
How
actual?
they're really trying to get us sort of like a core.
Yeah, so,
This is a key
so
part
that's
of
the
that
ranking
core,
sheet that
because
you all
they're,
would work on
it's
together, and
based
then this first
like
page, you can even
cultural
tear that off.
hub and everything like that, so I would.
You might just pass it around so everyone can read it. So it's discussing and prioritizing the projects.
I gotta remember each one, that's
Possible
where was it?
consideration and
This
discussion
is,
topics.
Lake Point and Thornbury
So.
are in the same area. They're like
Yeah,
2
so
blocks from my
we
house,
could
each
do
one of
by-
these.
Is
So-
this the bad trail update?
Why?
No,
That's
that's Wonderwood.
Wonderwood, okay.
Mhm. This one,
Previous community input.
they made
Top
a
themes
fort,
emerged
but it's
from
got
the
the seam in it, and then they built a fence way
Consideration
close.
for
so you
new
can
versus
actually
existing.
see it.
Because our community is killing it. We quit watering some of our parks.
It really is.
Really made a huge difference.
And they play a lot of like soccer there for the kids and
I would
Make
make
it easier for us to do replays.
Thornbury is the same thing,
Yeah.
you guys. It's just like,
And you'll need a spokesperson.
now Wonderwood, that's where you saw that.
And you'll be reporting, even though you're.
This is a tough one for me because it's
You
a
have to get
lot
a
of
sense
work
where.
and it's beautiful.
You'll be reporting out your.
And they say it was like usually really well used. Does anybody have any personal experience with knowing
I
that?
think it's one of the best parks in the city.
Really? Do you,
No matter what.
you see,
Activities.
you see a lot of people there using it? Right. My history with it is my kids play baseball there and
Yeah.
I remember that, but they'll feel and that's hard to find.
Yeah, because you gotta go through a residential development.
Yes, so we're not getting a lot on the bottom, but we'll put that one to the top. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Sites
So
where.
9 is
Yeah.
higher.
You're not forcing people
They
to
do
have
think
to
you
drive
have to
or
have
take
some
a bus or
stuff.
whatever.
They need to get funding. So they do need to try to talk. 29 replacements.
It's too big, it's not.
29.
Oh, okay. And how many go there?
Too big in terms of money.
That I think it's gonna go forward one way or another. And I don't think my vote makes much difference on this. Even though I'm not voting, but yeah, I wanna kind of table that one because it's just.
Cut off here.
Yeah,
Okay, that's rack. Oh, these are rack.
yeah.
So maybe another criteria.
Do we have to, are they telling us to do those separately or are they saying all do those? Okay, no, they're saying all of those separately, never mind.
Like I look.
So let's do each of them individually.
Most heavily visited.
Because they're all separate line items, okay.
Okay.
Park,
Light.
and there's 3 playground
So
areas.
what do we have? We have light conversion.
Playground replacement.
So to me, that's.
Replacement, baseball.
Well, I would say looking at.
Soccer netting and irrigation, soccer netting.
Like the rec, you know, that's.
I guess I'd only put-
Visited and the playgrounds put there in 3 different locations as a pitch.
Somebody pull that one somewhere else. The lights I think are important.
And then.
Because that gets the park used all time hours, so I think I'd put that.
And they really do use it. I've driven past there, even in the dead of winter. There's.
So we
I
don't.
live near there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, and then this one, the woman.
I don't know, I'm not that close.
It's
And honestly, I've never heard anybody complain about them.
Yeah.
It's all broken.
So this Meridian.
This home improvement.
Well, there's a whole neighborhood borders all sides except the 2 roads. 2 sides are bordered by homes. And then of course, mushroom corners being built into homes, but then you're buying a home next to a park, so you know which buy.
Some basketball courts too.
You know, there's a lot of.
Okay, so do we want to like, okay, so let's maybe set the big one aside, where are we putting on lights? I think yes, a light is
Part
fine.
of it is updating master plan.
There's
no added
Playground. We will include doing community engagement and finding, going out, because some of them coming out with.
I'm going.
They're really outdated, so a lot of the things we have are outdated now, so if everything will need to be updated, really.
People come out of,
The other one actually that I
our
felt
community,
kind of a safety,
Foxbury community,
accessibility.
our
was that
basketball
Wonder
court.
Where are you trying to put a boat into?
Is that Lake Point?
And again, no
Is that the
additional.
one you?
I would say-
No, I'm talking about the
You're a
Marine
C2.
Park. That's off of, 41st and Lambeth, that area,
I'm
right?
just looking for this stuff.
How about you?
You know, if there's a lot of young families that like are their.
We've got, they call it the porousness, it's a
Oh,
porous
clear.
concrete with.
Yeah.
Meridian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that area has the actually,
Lower
I
for me.
think, I can't remember if we talked about it, but the area north of I-5, the Hawkesbury area, we have one. Like, feel pretty.
Many people who's calling.
And it's little.
It's pretty small playground, you know, it
That's
does
why
serve.
our communities are.
It serves a ton of
You
people,
be our tiebreaker.
and there's amenities, but there's.
They've built a whole bunch of apartments.
It is
now.
local.
Just our little area, it's 550
Okay.
homes.
There's a lot of.
Home probably has 2 to 3 kids in it. You know, and
And then the other is, I guess, when you're just.
These are the new projects.
maybe how many rooms.
That's the one that.
Kill
It is a
we
high
didn't
dollar.
even-
The nice
Yeah, I
thing
think
is
that's
that
bottom for
One, but I
Space development of. It's very small, we'll have a playground, donations, so that you think, you know, will serve a lot of, yeah, serve a lot of people.
This one would be a nice ask.
Okay, which one are we at? Next one.
Um,
Oh, yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
the one big development.
We talked about that.
About that. We can be flexible. Long Life Park development.
So this, they have to do
Yeah.
work here.
Right. I, at this point in time, I just say so many.
I agree on that.
Yeah. You don't need an asset.
Did we have multiple listings for Long Lake?
That's where the.
I think is that where they are?
So I
The
don't
other way around.
Yeah, this one. Okay, well.
You wanna?
Yes.
It's not on here, it's not on this one.
Maybe you can divide some of these ones out. I don't know.
It's
All of these are.
We didn't go in here.
Okay, thank you.
So that'd be more of a maintenance.
Meridian campus.
I think so.
I'm just reading. Okay, so it's
What trails was? Or did?
Yeah.
Is it right here?
We talked about,
I think this is
and that's the.
very near or
we did that one.
an area that needs.
So where are we at?
So the Meridian campus is.
North
Would not
Park
be-
development.
I don't think it's.
That's the
This
bridge.
gets, this gets after Meridian campus north, is the one I
Over the others for me.
developed Meridian.
No, we want to.
Neighborhood park developed, but we're trying, we have on the list to add.
Well, this one, I think for the
The
hunter.
pump track.
Is this where they were gonna build a
Small service areas.
gas station?
The gas station, is the one that it's gonna be near the.
So,
Meridian
but we
campus.
wanted one.
Or the Meridian neighborhood park, so it's gonna be near the.
The gas station is still.
It's the same.
Yeah, so.
Lots of pictures, so we know what we're looking at.
Anyway.
So what did we have on the?
That's a fantastic.
Put that, I put this one, this one higher.
This one higher.
Right, that one is a 10, maybe we put this one down.
With the survey, with the survey.
I would agree.
I use it almost every day, almost.
I think it also.
Pickleball players,
It's good to fit.
walkers, actually, the skateboard. continually, I mean, all year long kind of thing, where it does support soccer, baseball. It does. It's really,
It's a great part.
great part.
I think it's starting to look at the stage, and so I think it could use some improvement.
Definitely, and it's really
And that's the one that's
needs to come in that picture. The tennis courts.
That's the field that like.
And I asked, I sent it maintenance guy, I said, it's there, it's in.
Yeah, they've already used it.
And you can really tell. Let's bring in funding.
The other end of
Senior
it.
games and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
so Meridian neighborhoods
In partnership.
So we
Really
own, so
loose.
this would be.
Plus it just provides.
So they're.
next to it is.
Right, right, so they're, what we're talking about is developing.
I think we gotta do it. Great Parks really wants this. That's your
Boy, that is
first
like-
initial point. They're dying for that.
That is an number one thing.
So now, that's not what we're talking about.
No, the ones in Archbishop was a field.
Yeah, we were just.
This is.
And then the Jason is the property.
Much more
is right
cost
there.
effective.
Where it's gonna be
Even
located,
though
that
it's $2 million.
But we're not, but they're not.
It doesn't even
be like.
Right, it doesn't include us, that's just.
I don't think we can take anything to the public if we don't have them.
Okay.
Like if we're like taxes or anything.
It probably
This is
was
what
bought
everybody's
at
asking
some
for.
point.
To your point, that this was the,
Something.
this is what we've gotta get if we're gonna ask for taxes or something.
There's no higher level in the stack,
Yeah.
so you know.
I think that one. Up there.
To Lacey Museum.
I'm reluctant.
Especially
I'm
like-
gonna give my boss.
Really.
Yeah.
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 I'm not gonna go to the senior
Yeah.
center.
It's like
Here
copper.
for the senior
Yeah,
center.
that's right.
To put this in.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know people using, because the grounds around here are just beautiful with the water and the park right there and stuff. Do you think that changes that for you? No.
But that's not part of the center. I know they have the disc golf and they have, like you said, the playground equipment,
They're willing to do a higher.
but that's not part of what we're asking for.
The pool or.
I think we, honestly,
Also, in.
we're all getting.
Meteor
I think
Vista Park,
this has gotta be
pickleball court,
top of the pile though,
outdoor
but,
table.
Sunshine and New York City.
in my opinion, but we can put it in the middle for now if you'd like. How about that?
I love it.
Where are you on it?
I didn't understand why it was part of the.
Yeah, and pickleball has got really big.
Because I don't think it was the
Doesn't have a
services.
doesn't have a separate funding, so we're still- And Parks Culture. Right over there.
Because they're already.
I still live in that Meridian area.
Yes. I remember it being built, but it still looked dated in there. I thought.
There's commercial park, and that's
So
about
they-
there, an opportunity to bring.
So would a new spray park go along with the park?
I really react to
It
that.
wouldn't just be a standalone.
So it could be in a, so for example, we have identified some people.
It almost made me sick.
Locations, so
Yeah,
that's
it's already
Central
campus by
Lacey,
home,
like
where
that.
the dumping is.
number one, but.
Okay, so.
That side of the priority area is there, and that one across the street.
Well, now, the old.
Saying like.
Yeah, right,
We have a
picture.
Yeah, I think it costs a lot of money to even get the top.
gas station right
In the area. that is-
That's,
That way we get none of them?
We need more than sponsorship and donations is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just, well, I.
Yeah, there's-
it's Bucknell Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're building.
It took me a minute.
You know,
Oh, that's
give them
right.
something
So-
with the water.
And it's a partnership. with
I was gonna say that,
it's complex.
That's probably a really good one.
This is, it seems to be limited to a certain age group.
There,
You know, we had them on there.
That's what I
Playground
think you would.
equipment for that age group.
From now.
Well, they do use the skate, so we would do that.
This was,
Yeah.
it's younger than that.
So I think.
Just as
So
information.
we write in one of
We
them.
can get her to
Yep, separately.
Indoor.
It's a family child
Yeah.
youth center.
So
It is
So,
built, it's just how are we?
Can I vote?
Can I say?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm partial, I'm partial,
Yeah, it's
to
very
young
exciting.
child.
See is what.
That once it gets,
All right.
designs on it.
Young Child and Family Center. Yes, because they're right here. Wally Middle School's right here.
The district
And
can't
this
fund.
used to be Bucknell.
And Racker course is right over here.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes off here, but that funding goes.
Top three.
The district
Well,
has
if
enough
we have
money to-
anybody.
So there could be.
Yeah.
Let's go, let's do.
Okay, so is that that's high priority?
I think we are.
So 9?
And remember, there was the YMCA thing.
I'm almost
well.
at.
And
we-
at one point, we
Yeah.
didn't have not a lot of us, but they wanted to bring sure we said, that's how we created this stuff. Number one was Central Lacey, number two.
She doesn't like it.
Southwest Lacey, that would be
600,000, no.
It's just one is out there.
Rainier Vista.
No.
And that's.
I get it.
So it's gonna actually be-
Yeah, and it would give you a full track.
Yeah, it's just Southwest.
You want the middle?
Oh, okay.
And that's already there.
Middle or higher.
Yeah, it's a.
So I like the idea of that.
Maybe some kind of operating.
We're not eliminating a lot, guys.
Now we're in trouble.
Well, now then we're just gonna go through.
And I'm writing the notes.
I guess this is part of this.
Southeast.
Here's our new one.
Yeah.
So how much?
This is one.
Picnic area, that's a safety.
This is off of
safety.
Oh,
So if
Did
you
you do the tour?
I did. Oh.
Yeah.
That was the tree.
Because it was undeveloped, if you drive through on purpose,
And there was a-
it's even more.
Plans in our top. So key takeaways from the public input, indoor pool.
This will be amazing.
Preservation of.
Does the.
It's amount of money.
Yeah, recreation opportunities.
Think-
and playgrounds.
Will the cost grow?
I think I would like pick this over like.
Yes, whenever.
I would pick this over.
And
whatever,
then,
I think. Because this has it's so much bigger, it's got the
Finished
potential
sports
for so
field the
much
city
more.
has. Like has.
That's the one.
I'll cry.
Yeah. And it's not
But
bad.
the ones that are like.
There's some of them are-
You keep looking at money, I'm just saying, money be damned, you know?
Anyway,
Trust part.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it.
This one.
Trails, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Underwood was just to
Say that again?
resurface the trail.
Is this real shape project never get ever?
Oh, yeah, so, so there is a master plan.
Oh, here's
For
one.
for Meridian neighborhood park.
Here's one.
No, so that's just a.
So how did you feel about this one?
But
We have it in
so
the-
the last time
I
I talked to them about
think
it.
there
it
was.
was
That I would be participating.
But the original intent.
But I think
was
if we're gonna be going.
Sports fields.
Which
I actually
whatever
learned
since it's
quite a
there, I
bit
think it has
Yeah.
to be things like this, Sheriff's Spray Parks.
Whether or
I
not.
don't think this.
The master, I don't know, yeah, I mean,
So.
Right.
I think like.
Plus.
Oh,
the-
okay,
on the
okay.
public surveys,
I don't know.
trails.
I do know that there was talk about a shared.
I think
sports
they
field
were
right
maybe
here.
like next to the.
I'm not sure.
Central Park
I
Playground.
mean, I'm assuming that school district has property.
Beyond amazing.
Right.
Safe.
But they don't always.
Yeah.
They don't always use it for that, so it was,
Whenever
So
Parker
anytime
goes
you-
climbing.
space for a field specifically. with sports fields. In the master plan that we'll get.
Just the
It was gonna have like cross country trails, stuff like that.
Yes.
But to answer your question, over to as well.
But in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Just because of.
Right, so here
Such
what we
a
have
short
is
part of
one
the city.
big like soccer / football.
Environment.
place.
I mean, we go there quite a bit.
And there were 2 baseball fields, all related.
Lake.
Oh,
Point.
to get people
Parks
excited.
Innocent.
But the master
Gonna be
plan
asking a lot of money, so
That's
I don't
the
know.
one
It's been so long.
And as we get maybe to this pile, just another thought,
So-
maybe we have
I think the concept to go back out.
to your point, but Do we have, here's
How
our,
much is
here's
it?
our nature
It's like
focus.
40,000.
You know, the sports schools are still needed water driving across there. Here's our space.
So put like a 9 or an 8.
Focus and maybe decide where those go and.
That change on number 5?
Oh, no, I was just, the
Um,
baseball
but
complex. I have to say the parking lot.
Yes.
Those
Yes, and maybe our first project. So yeah, once we kind of get to it.
Field.
Here.
Yeah, because we're gonna people say, I wanna walk a trail, I want outdoors, and this is gonna be just amazing built out.
Here, the baseball complex.
And it's gonna
concrete.
start in 20. So this is the-
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
That's gonna be hard because you still have to have permeable.
Okay,
It goes, let's stick with our process.
Yeah.
How's the Batavia State?
Are you guys amused yet? It's very interesting.
Say that,
Too arbitrary and capricious way.
Could be included.
We're on the concrete.
Yeah, and that's where, so that's where this one. The Central Lacey.
Before and after.
Could be the location for that.
I think just.
This is
It's all together.
Just, they remember, they're not clumped together on one line. But you're right, they have talked about it.
But they gotta say something.
Yeah, that's what they said, they were gonna use it.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Let's go see
Right,
the-
that's either better or non-permeable, and then it made by stormwater, but it doesn't stand for the central.
Yeah,
So that is
Yeah.
360,000.
let me say.
No, I think this is amazingly cool.
Oh, yeah.
And I was actually shared it with the planning commission because I thought it was so.
And people have to pay for that,
cool,
right?
Just to take this.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, high of Lacey and make it something actually nice, cause I
You just go and have to
drive by it a lot.
People do.
But it would not, I think they're,
If
from
we
a
have
park
a
perspective, I think
service
that
that's gonna bring us money and.
if we have limited funds, it's not high.
Lodging tax, whatever that does.
Yeah, this one's 40,000.
It's a show point.
So I assume the food truck
Right up there with the
plaza,
park.
Yeah.
That's already, yeah, that's kind of done.
well, they're gonna move it though.
Right, but it's at least done for now, so.
Softball turf.
This though could be
You
amazing.
know, I have to say, I don't play softball, but we played last year.
I think it kind of class up Lacey a little bit.
And that turf is awful. Yeah, because, I mean, unless you know what you're doing. My daughter,
You're
hit-
probably not used to it, right?
Okay.
but my daughter hit the ball and she fell. When she
Okay.
started running. Now we grabbed,
We're even
you
up.
grabbed your shoe. So when I hit the ball, luckily hit the ball, I was prepared
So,
for it.
what do you guys think?
I
Are
hit
we
the ball.
doing a?
Yeah.
Focus, water focus, maybe.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
it
was,
Yeah, I know.
Feels like I'm gonna pop one to that.
I think trails should be in there.
Yeah.
Because of.
Check it out, that's why I say one outdoor.
Yeah.
I like it in the same.
Water and
We're in the same high grade. So something with outdoor play equipment, something with, yeah.
Yeah, I think the rack generally is
Whatever
like
nature.
very high.
Yeah.
Do you think one of
And I
those,
think
well,
Were any of those
Like
related?
paved, make it handicap accessible.
Hey, real quick, at 6:20, we have 10 more allotted minutes, but we can also check in with you at
That's really
6:30
important.
if you need a little bit more time. So in 10 minutes, we'll check back with you and see how much more time you need.
It's
So
The
if we
netting.
find us in those three categories, which projects fit in one of those three, then we can go through which one we like the top of. Right?
Sitting in the park.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. So the playground replacement, Greenville Vista Park.
So what do we call this one?
Not like 30 years. That's just like,
Yeah.
that's
Do
trails.
we want the trails?
I think
off
it's
in
great.
30 years.
It's old.
Which is nice, 19, 20 years.
Spread it out. Well, it had to be there in the 90s.
This one is,
We could do.
No, I think,
this one crosses over, and it's teams and all that stuff, as well as trail.
Really, it's where?
This one to me is consistent with the rack, I think, as far as to be though, we're like two.
Put them on in
September.
No, the rack doesn't
Yeah.
have.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. But it has soccer and baseball
Yeah.
So
All of the field and play equipment.
and walking around it.
Yeah, I like how he.
That's probably important too.
I think
Well,
it's
there's courts, fields, walking,
I
water.
mean, that's a community park.
Okay, I like that.
Way.
What do you guys think?
To bring in people.
So we said this.
Is it more, matters more that not just I like it?
So we currently have a whole bunch of towns.
Do we have courts?
That's why I was like,
Yes.
How
see
smart.
every single thing.
Walking.
But
we don't know yet.
Yes.
So we pick-
And then stuff
So
that
we
we
pick-
fit more than one.
Maybe not find the best here, just
So
really fun.
we pick maybe our top of the, okay, courts, fields, walking, water.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Seven.
one of these down here is if it's more than one category.
Yeah, that was.
Here, this is playgrounds.
Really, this does.
Not
I
all.
think that's mainly.
So
good.
now we're on to a replacement.
Trails. I think that's, yeah, walking, trails, whatever, I should say trails, because trails is what people said.
Yeah.
I think park plans was built in like the
So-
90s. Over this.
Do we have anything else, trails that made our?
Which is minimal.
Yeah, let-
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to put that as
Okay,
well?
long leg.
Yeah, so that would compete with spray parks.
But we would like all of them to have separate numbers, not just 29, and then maybe
That's the
we'll
sheriff's
say like rack was our number.
Yeah, so 11 was the green district.
No,
I think
I just,
Meridian Park.
you know, let me just say I'm an external processor, so as I talk, I'll think different things. So,
Go ahead.
I just was thinking if we were gonna,
Well, it's only
do
600.
we need to do everything they're wanting for the rack?
Chunk change.
Do I think the rack deserves money? Yes, but I was prioritizing the things within the rack.
Yeah, basketball.
There's nothing there.
It's only 200,000.
Let's do that. We'll do one.
That's great. Well, it's helpful that you all were willing to like at least.
The fencing, the netting, that's to protect other people.
Look at the concrete.
The irrigation, I'm a little confused with because they talked about also another kind of, that there's one soccer field that has the turf.
Have little, is it little
This
divots?
is
Like
like
bicycles are?
I don't know, irrigation control, maybe that just they need to do. I'm suing, I don't know,
That's what they do, but.
That's why we.
So if they were going
The
to.
manufacturer stop producing parts for the existing controllers, so we just need.
Well, it is the
New
northwest,
control.
so, you know, a little
But
moss.
will they need that by they switching to the turf?
But like they need to switch it, that's.
That's our pipes on our
The
trails.
soccer state,
I know.
Yeah.
So this one would be,
my top fields would be, would you guys have, a-
fields.
would you have a different opinion, you guys?
Conversation. Okay, so.
Versus this, which is.
Pioneer Vista is heavily used for both baseball, which is why they're putting the netting up there to separate
The
it.
lighted fields?
No, it does not.
That's
So
not.
the rack would get.
We did that. Oh,
In that regard, we've got a better, we've got a better.
Yeah.
The number.
Building, so that's
So rack is our number one.
The fields are there.
Wonderwood?
The Meridian campus one,
That's only 2,200
Pioneer
now.
Vista.
Rainier Vista.
To me, that is.
No, I don't think that was in the Rainier
They're not
Vista.
asking
For the
for-
people.
There was, that wasn't anything with that, so our only field one would
Building would
be
go on. Okay, so we spent 2 million,
rack.
3 million, 3 million so far.
Okay. I know.
Or the rack versus Meridian campus. Oh, there's Meridian campus or Meridian Park. There's both, they're separate here.
So,
Expanded. So Meridian campus would be the only one.
yeah.
So the baseball then would fit in with this.
Yeah.
And the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That
So.
was the one with the trees.
So we're, if we, so the one that is gonna be trails.
Yes,
We can come in.
And so,
that was this.
so our trails are going to be,
I would do something.
Yeah.
I mean,
trails are gonna
exactly.
be,
Right.
what is it?
Well, then they were saying that the
That's the way
playground
Oh, yeah.
where
Yeah.
the kids play is
So
gonna.
you know, something else would be, you're not bound by this.
And the next thing I know.
Well, and then
Trails would be that.
this one, he said, I said because it says it was multiple
Okay.
categories. This has trail systems that are used every single day.
But honestly,
Look at the playground.
courts, yeah.
Soccer field,
Okay.
replacement.
Okay, so then that goes with,
So these are our two, no, wait, this one and this are our two fields. That's quite a different price point.
Baseball.
This one could be like, if we get this one passed, they could throw in the extra 200,000 and fix Wonderwood, don't you think? The deal right
this
there.
one goes this way.
So this brings people.
There.
Wait, so this one. It's
The red turf.
Okay.
That's courts.
You can have.
Probably the blue.
Parking lot
Oh,
expansion.
we can have a court.
For the interim, you know, for accessibility.
They're very close to one.
16.
Property is just equipment replacement.
But the kids will
What was the other one?
play.
Lake Point's.
Baseball complex.
ADA
Don't
accessible.
make my choice. Compared to this stuff.
Yeah, that's.
But that is 3, I think.
3.
17 now.
So we're trying to do one in each category.
Is that what you? That's what I was writing on the boundaries bullet. Did I misunderstand? Was I not paying attention well?
I don't know, I thought they said they wanted the top 3 and what our logic was.
Maybe, and then main environmental.
How you. Yeah.
Or the kids.
And they're gonna report on us if we don't really say the truth.
No.
See?
I was thinking harder, thank you for
It
validating me.
like they did.
Yeah, no, listen to the party.
Yeah.
I must think like.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, we can rank them, we rank this one. And over here might be scenario.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So.
Well, it's supposed to be a fun activity.
I almost did the
So-
Zoom thing how they did, that's not.
This is the playground
You
equipment.
have to do it by yourself, then report.
Well, you. I don't know.
These
I
two
got
parks
things, I
are
don't know if they
within,
do that.
actually like within 4 blocks. of
Two
one
of them.
another. They're all in the same housing development.
I think if we do sports, I think it's,
Kind of creative. Well, they got- they did
I don't think it's like.
that.
Need
Need all the rest of the green space, thank you.
I think we're gonna go Rainier Vista.
Number 7.
Absolutely,
Agent.
absolutely.
Okay, number 7.
That goes.
Because that also makes income.
Yeah, so let's go back.
So how are you guys feeling as far as?
You want this over here.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
We're on number 18.
Okay, Hunter.
And go with the lights or
We have
netting.
Okay, so now we're on.
Fit in any of my city categories I have.
Do you want to go with the upgrade replacement?
Soccer field, LED lights.
You guys need about 10-15 more minutes, you think?
Yeah, if you want a ranking of all of them, I think we need that.
Okay,
Middle of whatever the way of
We have the Rainier Vista is a 10.
I don't know what this one's, I like it. It's popular.
Park is a 10.
Doesn't make.
Complex playground since we already did.
So Rainier Vista, what was that?
It doesn't,
That was a park playground replacement.
doesn't, but then I'm looking at all the big money. So I don't.
How about we put that in the middle one? Yep. There was a middle category, I don't know.
10 to 15 more minutes with this activity. Okay, we gotta kind of crank it up, guys. So, okay, so what's gonna be our, so walking trails, do we like?
Okay, walkable, yeah.
Space, yeah, talk about that as.
Now we're done.
Okay.
And it would be more.
So then we had an 8, we had Lake Point as
CUO.
an 8.
I
Oh.
You need to put your call.
We need to rename it.
Did we do the 9s?
The name's too hard to pronounce. Okay.
Oh,
So,
No.
does 8 come after 10? Come on.
So
I should have brought my one down.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, Central Lacey, the water park. So Central Lacey was first on the
It's more
list.
rubby than
where's
it
those
is.
pick our top?
That was what I liked.
They look really good. I would say
They
Rainier
do,
Vista
it
around.
looks brand new.
Okay, but
It is.
21. The only thing we're leaving out is the water, which is number one.
They only want to, so we're gonna do like rebels and we're gonna
Okay.
I say spray parks versus.
I do.
Like,
I do, I picked this
In terms of maintenance.
we're gonna go with 3.
And we're making up our own rules. Okay.
Okay, so we've got our top 4.
Got a long way.
We're responsive to.
Age.
And we need to figure out ways to get lots and lots of money.
Well, and here's the other thing. We're responsive to all ages, all groups, so it's team sports as well as individual.
Except these other ones.
So now we need to rank, but they want to rank. So do we want to, so what do we want to put as number 1?
I thought we were doing that one.
Oh, is that what we were
So
talking
Rainier
about?
Vista.
We were talking about spray parks.
Rainier Vista's 5.
So we could like, if you guys would be okay, we can say rack and lump that into this one.
Right, 20.
This one though is.
Okay, so is rack number 1, 2, 3, or 4? Which one's number 1 for you? Which one's number 1?
Okay.
Or this could be, okay, yeah, so where are the options?
I'm okay with this one.
Southwest Lacey, Northeast Lacey.
That's all right.
Rainier Vista, right?
Because it's already developed and
So we're.
So.
know about it.
These in-
It's well used.
I think this distinguishes Lacey in a way that
Yeah.
this one will when developed.
The
But
one
I
thing
think
I was
it's
trying
love
to
when they
think.
do that.
It's
Draw
northeast,
people to
take away
Lacey
from-
that
yeah.
for visitors.
Oh,
It's
mhm.
it's
Well,
just,
I'm trying to think
it
of
is
where
amazing to
the-
look
Well,
at.
no, but I
It's
mean,
so
it's
well
far,
done. It's so
how far should you go
It-
closer to
It
the.
looks great,
So,
but I don't care.
Okay.
Which
It
one
is-
was that?
City back.
Hutchimer one?
So because it's Spring Market Line.
So
like,
what is number 2?
There's one in Yellow.
Great Kuyu. I agree with that.
Hey, This one.
Tangle Wild, that's.
And this is what-
That's like.
That'd be third.
Yeah.
So they're-
No,
That's why I was trying to figure out, like,
once we
should say
cover
meadows.
this. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Meadows Elementary. And then we've got Rainier District Court and Spring.
Yeah. So then that was 8.
Wait, did you say
We don't hear River.
And I would put it
Ridge
forward.
is north.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's Ridge.
North, yeah.
I would
One
go
out.
by Costco. And it
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
needs to
yeah.
get up there and it does, we don't have anything with
Right.
it.
We don't.
Yellow
Highway.
So I would put it 3
Oh, yeah,
and
that's.
then Rainier District Court 4.
We did.
Because they're there.
So
like, I would say
Northeast
It's okay, that's why we're talking.
This is what the whole point of conversation is. We're changing our minds as we go. So that, could you
Yeah.
live with that?
Yeah.
Of course I can live with it. Only reason I say Rainier
This
Vista
would be-
Spray Park in terms of order of
this would be
priority.
Buckeye. What was that?
This hits more people
binding, so it doesn't.
and all year
Young
long.
Child Family Center, right?
Is for the good months.
And then I
Vista
don't know.
Really is all year long, so that's.
I mean, that's pretty,
why I'm not-
pretty like with your logic, that this is just the only, but this one rises higher to me. And we've already said it.
Right, I agree. Yeah, I
I
agree
don't-
on that.
But I agree with what your point is,
I'm
though.
gonna go with.
He goes to Brooks. Okay, so that means,
Is that get all?
so then, do we know you're more? I guess we do.
How many projects do we have? 4. Because some of these we know, like we put this at the very bottom, so let's get rid of this. Do we know how many we have?
Probably are
Rainier
I don't really care. And you guys love it.
Yeah.
So rebellious over here.
Yes.
I'm a,
Oh, yeah.
I'm voting member making you get to become.
Yeah.
But we're the voting members, we're going along with it, aren't we?
They're all so worthy. They are also worthy too.
And that's just in
But,
terms of like, what would
but I
have big
think,
enough
I think
parking lot,
I'm prepared to
big enough
ask for
space
big
so
money
it could actually
and I
go
think
in
they
there.
can make number of projects
This is
that
less expensive than
that
that.
are kind of craftsman, kind of sexy to the public, that will be something people will like, so.
We're getting there.
So we need to kind of like,
23
so-
up there, up here, 23 is what it is, right?
Okay, so one,
It's 280.
I think the baseball one gets more used.
Is that's what's bigger, that's the one that has a double two. Okay, so that's the 25.
16, 17, 18, okay.
So we can make Brooks number
We don't have to
18.
Can you live with that?
Or long way.
So we're gonna say
This
a
one
little
is a matter.
baby park over there.
Yeah.
No, we don't have
No.
to find it.
And this one.
So,
I mean, if it's
would
not
you be
in
able
your
to park
stuff,
before you do parade?
Yes.
We have it.
Great, happy first day.
It's the one that you don't even know it's there. We all ask about signage. And it's a little tiny.
Another dot note things.
Like one acre. It's really small.
So.
Did you guys do it?
You want to live there? You need to kind of stop.
The Lacey Museum.
Started talking.
The senior center.
29.
I didn't lose track.
There I know.
I can agree with the museum. Not a single
guys have a
agree with the senior
spokesperson?
center. So where are you standing?
Yes. Expanding the property.
Oh, but there's expanding the
Yeah,
park
we-
too, so you're talking about, yeah.
That's why they have to. You know, a lot of people come are transported there, so it's interesting.
Not that
Parking
they-
lot.
Our regular.
Because they drop them off in buses.
I think that my mother-in-law used to do that.
Yeah, well, and some facilities.
Another one we
send
can
people
later.
and they take them in a bus.
Your car? Yeah, right. No.
That's still.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
Yes.
The expansion of the museum, we want to put these kind of down here at the bottom. So maybe.
And,
So I'm feeling
sure.
I agree on that. I couldn't think this meridian. These are nice, but they're not, they're not. To me, they're
Right.
not racked to me, so they kind of
Right.
get low. I think this is gonna kind of stay down to the bottom because we just don't need the money for that. This is the big
Yes.
Bucknell thing.
All right.
So maybe we put that.
Haley, I have something.
Because the neighborhoods have grown so much. There's nothing on it.
These ones stay bottom to me. This is the radiant one.
That was a.
Right.
If you care what order, it doesn't really matter, right?
When it was trying to turn, I was like, I'm just gonna stay right here. I have to see how this ends.
We've got home and Hunter,
Like you're a little token, I think.
playground.
We don't have a store for long.
Renegotiate your loan.
An auction of that one.
The penny.
1 to 5, I would agree on that. Maybe that's another water one.
Yeah.
Where are you on that?
It's,
I think I worded this as 5.
I mean, the regional, Mon has activity center. And.
Okay.
They,
Okay, and then, so then we need to do Holman.
Yeah.
Hummer,
Oh, yeah, you
I
have.
saw them drive everywhere now.
You have.
Playground, Rainier Vista.
It was crossing on my bike.
Since we're putting Rainier Vista there towards the park, should we get that one kind of maybe stick?
Like kind of holding your steering wheel.
Get that
And she
going?
rolled up on
And
my bike, so I was
then-
actually standing on her fender.
It's gonna be.
Maybe Wonderwood because
I'm here.
wheels gonna take a while.
You put one of our hands.
I'm just throwing out. If someone sticks, this is stick. So then we need 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, wait, do, I just counted. Oh, no, wait, there we go. Okay, so,
So we now, I would put,
Yeah, it's not that long. Just like all around.
Been a good teaching experience though.
I put Holman towards the bottom.
We didn't make eye contact.
Mhm.
I said it just like took off.
So we call that 11. And
Yeah, it's like that trail that cuts through.
That's good.
since we're doing
area, that was.
we're doing Rainier Vista, maybe we put this as,
And the pool's gone. I
Well,
think
Bikes
they.
come
where
flying
we
out.
go, maybe 10,
Time, they were like.
8 on the Lakes Point tennis court.
Do not see.
No, I could have did
They're
this
not gonna
2 ways.
Mhm.
Sorry. if you want to throw what you do.
You're like, oh.
We need
stuff like what,
8, 9, and 10.
Are you enjoying
Bike
it?
trail.
So Huckle Park, Lake Point, and Thornbury, which is Chicago.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's the playground? Salisbury would be the playground. Yeah, and then 9 and 10 between Hunter and Lakeland. Which get working. Nine seconds.
Turning on your feet, on your heel. What is your?
Lead a sales tax increase and every funding source you suggest if you need all of those.
Rehab.
That's right. Good work, guys.
Good experience, because they are not patient for you.
I know.
You know, I
watch a lot.
Williams comes back around. Huh?
No, Thursday.
That wasn't our intent.
Stay seated there.
Used to be, but the community proposed, you can go have a place. And I just go and put it.
How it is.
And now it's like, oh, no.
Okay, we're gonna put it back to you. Well done.
No, I liked your suggestion. It's kind of. Parts in here for you. So I got a hold of.
Oh, no, you can.
Making trouble trying to get let out.
Just like home.
Cause I didn't walk up to the school myself.
We were right.
We saw that.
Yeah.
Just wait. Perfect. While you're there. For accidents.
But, he only.
As I'm saying, you're all like.
So you're always trying to get. There's so many different areas you get. We're here now. Good district. For 16 years, I was pharmacy.
Hey, thanks, everyone. That's a little harder than maybe.
Yeah. How easy.
Okay, so top three. Please don't mind sharing, and then also just anything interesting of how you guys got those top three to rise to the top would be great to know. So start with group number one.
That's Rachel.
Yeah.
Our vice chair would like to share.
Yeah, okay, great.
So we talked first about what our, sort of priorities were. We were focused on things that the community wanted in the surveys. Things that would serve children and families, things that would reduce our existing, or that would take care of existing maintenance needs before adding new stuff that was gonna add new maintenance costs. Donor interest, potentially exciting projects for donors, and then projects that would serve underserved areas or groups that aren't currently benefiting from our services. So those were kind of the things that we all had in mind as we developed the list. And so what came in as our top three was the Holman Park picnic area, saving the trees and reducing future costs. That didn't really feel optional. The trail maintenance at Wonderwood, since that is an accessibility need, it's a safety risk. And then the indoor pool was our third top choice, because there is existing funding from partners, because it's an exciting project, and because it serves a lot of different needs that aren't being met elsewhere. I think that covers it. Is anything?
Well done, thank you.
And group number two, our number one was the Meridian Park pickleball courts and skate and pump track. We said that because of the just like very doable price, and then also such a great need in the area, and then the fact that would get a lot of use in the area where it is. And then our number two was the Wonderwood Park Trails resurfacing because of the safety concern and also the very accessible price. Number three, we said the RAC baseball, softball field turf replacements, because of how those are a draw for people and they are heavily used.
Bring in money.
Yeah, bringing money. Yeah.
Group 3 approach is radically different.
Yes.
Radically different. So some of our thoughts were, if we're gonna be going to the public for money, then we need to have projects that are gonna get the public excited. And we took a few liberties, and we organized into categories like what would be our number one courts, what would be our number one fields, what would be our number one trails, what would be our number one water. And so I know you said 3, but we did 4. I will own all of that. I led them astray.
We're rebels right out of the gate.
So number 1 for us was pretty much anything rack. It's just too great a project and it has such.
Hey, we couldn't do that.
Let us do
They
that.
wouldn't. Stop.
We did not. He gave us looks, but we just said anything rack was number 1, so.
We had that too, also.
Yeah.
Good, there we go, so we weren't just much, so. We think Greg Cuyo is just gonna be amazing, and there was a lot of public feedback about the need for trails, and I think it will outdo any trails park that we have. You know, we have little trails in many of the parks, but we think it's just will be outstanding when done. 3 was spray parks. We just really, the public wants water and we think spray parks are just more viable than that. And then because we had 4 categories, sorry, I'm gonna give you our 4th, which is basically Rainier Vista, the courts. They're just too popular and that's just an amazing park. And so just to keep that at the level that it needs to be to attract people. So we need lots of money,
So group 3 is rogue.
we are.
Yeah. Try and stop us.
We tried.
They'll have to shake us up next time if we're doing group activities, so we'll see who the real rebel is.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we'll go to, let's start with, how about Mark? You wanna go next?
Did you say Mark?
Yep, sorry,
Okay.
we're a loud group in here.
So I'm just going,
Oh, you muted
Oh,
yourself.
you muted.
I'm just going to default back on what I said at a previous meeting. I simply do not feel qualified to be prioritizing among these projects. I realize that when you look at the mission statement for our working group, one of the charges is to review the projects. And then, of course, to identify a funding package to take to the council and possibly voters. And I'm all on board that. That's sort of what I'm going to be focused on. But as far as drilling down on specific projects, honestly, I just don't feel I have enough profound knowledge. To me, it's tampering. So I'm not going to do that personally. And so that's just my point of view on this. I hope you understand. But it certainly has been wonderful getting a better understanding of the scope of the projects that we'd like to advance. But again, I'm just not comfortable prioritizing.
Good. All right. John, do you want to go next?
There we go. Sure thing. Some great justifications here. Loved hearing everybody else's kind of input and logic for their ranking choices. My top 3 I'm going to kind of loop together. They're some of the more smaller projects that aren't really like capital intensive. I've got excuse me, the Brooks Park development, and then the Rainier Vista playground replacement, and the Lake Point Park tennis and basketball court renovation. Those are kind of like a mix of accessibility and safety, as well as the some kind of like equity focus and like making sure that we have these areas done. And again, their price point is very reasonable, and so prioritizing those is really a no-brainer for me. Now with that, my number 4 choice, or I guess in this case my number 2 choice, would be the senior center, for similar reasons I've already mentioned. It's a very great location. It's very central. It's heavily utilized. It would only do more so in the future. They do great work there, and we can only expand our services and offerings by investing in that. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. One of my other top priorities was also the spray parks. That's kind of the logic that I heard a little bit earlier, is that this is something that was a higher priority for the public that we uphold. And that gets people excited about, parks as well as if they, aren't already, but even more so. And then, I kind of put those in order of location, versus like, how accessible these locations may be, how many other amenities might be nearby, and usability, things of that nature. So that's me.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That concludes our priority ranking activity tonight. Thank you so much. Very interesting for the approach to this.
So the next thing is when we get to the funding, which I heard somebody comment about, is what is going to pique the interest of our community to help us fund these projects. So we kind of got to think about that. Yeah. What sells. Especially because we're probably gonna, we're going out to the voters, and there's no question about it, to do some of this. I can't see any other way not to. So it has to be some way that we educate something that. Anyway, never mind, I'm just going on. Thinking out loud.
I completely agree with you. I think it's, every single one of these is worthy.
Yeah.
But if we only want to hit the small ones because the price point is reasonable, we're not gonna expand the parks to what the public wants from us with the parks. And so we have to ask if they're willing to put some money towards it and then pick the ones that are gonna be something that's gonna get the voter excited,
Right.
willing to pay for it.
Well, if there's nothing else, I think we are ready to adjourn the meeting at 6:54. And our next meeting is next Monday, is that right? Okay.
Monday?
Yep, next Monday, not 2 weeks from now. So we'll see everyone next Monday at 5:30.
Here's the Mondays in.
Did you want these?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.